Okay, now we're going to go into DaVinci Resolve 12.5, the color page. And you'll remember last video we started and we looked at the media page and how to get media into your media pool. We went to the edit page and made a tiny little timeline. And now we're going into the color page. Now, I have had to do another timeline because I inadvertently destroyed the one that I was working on before. But this is your color page, and if you open it up, you have to have already done a timeline. You have to already have a timeline. And this section here in the upper left, that's your gallery. And if you want, if you ever open this and you don't see the clips that are in your timeline, you click on clips up here and they will appear. And this is the order they are in your timeline. You can show a little mini timeline down here that shows how long each clip is, and that this is your second clip, this is your third clip. Personally, on a small MacBook Pro like this, I don't have the real estate for it, so I generally let it go. Okay, so this is your gallery. This is where you will store the corrections that you've made. You can output them over to the area here that says no stills created, and then apply them to other clips as you go along. So this is where you will save your corrections as you go. This is your viewer, and if you want to see it bigger, you come here, and as you're making corrections, sometimes you really do want to see it bigger depending on your screen size. Okay, this area over here is called your node tree. And this is where you're, it's basically you're building your corrections in here. And this is sort of an architecture of them. And there are whole tutorials on nodes, and I will link to some of those in another week or so. But right now, just know that this is where your node tree is. And each one of these little screens that you get is called a node. And you'll see this one says no color correction. Down in the bottom of your screen on your color page is your tool area. And this is where you access all of the things you need to change or correct your image. And you'll see that you can go across here, camera raw, there's color match. You will spend a lot of time here in the beginning, and when you're doing the Denver Riddle exercises in the color wheels. So if you show up in this area and you don't have the color wheel showing, you click on the little target area, and that will bring your color wheels up. Over here is where you can look at different scopes, and Denver will bring you into that and talk about it. But in the meantime, the parade scope separates out your red, your green, and your blue. The waveform, which you will use a lot, it has different ways that it can be seen. Come up here and click. If you hit the Y, it basically makes it just a black and white form. So for now, we're going to have it in RGB. And when you're working with this, if you can't see it well enough or you need to see more, you can change the brightness there. You generally are going to have, you see how you can make a reference level if you've set something that you want certain colors to hit, and you can just reset the view and get the heck out of there. So you can make it as big as the whole screen. This is all 4 of the scopes that you can use. If you want to just use a 2 view, say Denver often talks about that he uses the waveform and he uses the vector scope. And so then you can go into where you're just seeing those at any given time. But by and large, I'm going to close that. Down here you can always get back to your scopes and the waveform here for you. So when you're working with your color page, you want to be able to know that you can mute this so that you're only, you're not hearing the sound when you're playing it. You can turn off this color picker in case it gets in your way, because it's kind of the default tool here, and you can inadvertently click in your footage image, and you don't really want to do anything inadvertently. So that's basically the way to look at your color page. But in addition, you want to understand that your waveform scope here corresponds to your image left to right. So the left part of the scope corresponds to the left part of the image. The middle part of the scope corresponds to the middle part of the image, and you guessed it, right corresponds to right. And your color wheels over here are used to obviously affect the image. The lift works on the shadows and the dark areas. So a lot of times in an image that doesn't have enough contrast, you end up wanting to darken the blacks and the dark. So you can watch your vector scope or your waveform here. As you're darkening, generally you're going to get the darks close to the bottom of your waveform. Your gain color wheel affects the highlights, and so if you pull to the right, it's going to brighten your highlights, and it raises the brightest parts of your scope there. Gamma is your midtones, and usually that will be your grays. It's usually your skin tones. So oftentimes you'll be working with those. Do you want them brighter? Do you want them darker? And one of my favorite things that I don't know that Denver talks about in this is you can actually use this center area to affect the midtones, add a little more pink to his skin. You can make things bluer. So you can kind of see that you can warm things way, way up here. I'm going over to yellow and gold. You're thinking this might be the way that you color correct, but there's a much easier way. But a lot of times you want to add a little more pink or red to the cheeks, and you can do that individually. Down here, under there's a little 1, and you can actually add saturation, and you can watch your scopes here. Okay, and right now we're really saturating that pink and that red, and if you go into your vector scope, that's where your saturation shows, and you see here's your red, and you're getting this big spike in that direction. So let's go back to our waveform. So you can change the saturation with this slider here. Okay, sorry, I had to give you a brief edit there. Okay, so under number 2 here, you can see there's a temperature slider, and this can pretty quickly, say you've shot and you didn't color balance and you've got this blue image, you can pretty quickly bring things back into line with your temperature slider. And again, the fine tweaking of the correction would take more time, but temperature here is going to really help you take an image that, again, say you didn't you didn't white balance your camera, and you've got footage that's very, very gold. You can pretty easily bring that back into line with your temperature slider. Okay, I just want to show you really quickly a couple of other things. You can always reset your color wheels by clicking on the kind of go back button, and so you'll see now we've got this image, and it's pretty unattractive in a lot of ways. So I just want to do a little bit of correction. You'll see that we've got one node here. But again, I'm going to take the darks down. I'm going to take the highlights up a bit. Let's make this a little bit bigger for the moment while we're working on it. And already, I mean, you can see that this is going from this, you know, you're starting to add more contrast. We're going to add that highlight back in, and that. I'm actually going to take the darks down a little bit more to get closer to that 0 bottom line. Okay, take my highlights up a little bit. I'm going to push the pink red into his skin tones a little bit more. I'm not going to do this real precisely, but I'm kind of showing you how this is done because I want to make sure to show you how to save one of these shots, the correction that you've done. And so you basically you right click and you click grab still. And there it goes right over here. And this is the record of this particular correction. So then perhaps you get to another shot that you pretty much figure these are supposed to match up. You can put the shot you want to match to in here, the one that you have to correct still. And then you come over here and you right click and you say apply grade. And immediately it applies to the shot that you have selected. And this doesn't always work totally, but it does get you in the ballpark pretty fast. If you've got camera angles that were taken in at 2 different times and they're kind of not matching, this will get you in the ballpark to matching those. Okay, so that gets us pretty close to understanding the color page and how to do some of the basic kinds of corrections or adjustments. So lift, again, that affects your darks, your shadows. Gain, it affects your highlights. Gamma is your midtones. Take some time to navigate around. We will do some other things. You certainly will while you're working on the Denver Riddle exercise. I think this gives you enough to get to about 6 minutes and 19 seconds in the Denver Riddle video and be able to follow along with him and do these. He then goes into power windows, and I'm going to make another video about that. Okay, thanks and goodbye.